Om Shrim Hrim Klim Glaum Ganapataye Varavarada Sarvajanam Me Vashamanaya Swaha. Om Shrim Hrim Klim Glaum Ganapataye Varavarada Sarvajanam Me Vashamanaya Swaha. Om Shrim Hrim Klim Glaum Ganapataye Varavarada Sarvajanam Me Vashamanaya Swaha. Om Shrim Hrim Klim Glaum Ganapataye Varavarada Sarvajanam Me Vashamanaya Swaha. Om. Okay. So the sixth verse. Raghu chant pandreya, sixth verse. Tvaṃ guṇatrayātītaḥ.
Yeah. Tvaṃ guṇatrayātītaḥ.
No, the whole thing.
கொஞ்சம் maximize பண்றீங்களா?
I cannot. Wait.
Okay. Tvaṃ guṇatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ avastātrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ dehatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ kālatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ mūlādhārasthitosi nityam. Tvaṃ shaktitrayātmakah. Tvaṃ yogino dhyayanti nityam. Tvaṃ brahma tvaṃ vishnustvam rudrastvam indrastvam agnistvam vayustvam suryastvam chandramastvam brahma bhurbhuvasvarom.
Super. Very nice. Chandra Mama?
Tvaṃ guṇatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ avastātrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ dehatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ kālatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ mūlādhāre sthitosi nityam.
Mūlādhāra sthitosi nityam.
Tvaṃ mūlādhāra sthitosi nityam. Tvaṃ shaktitrayātmakah. Tvaṃ yogino dhyayanti nityam. Tvaṃ brahma tvaṃ vishnustvam rudrastvam indrastvam agnistvam vayustvam suryastvam chandramastvam brahma bhurbhuvasvarom.
Very nice. So this is the sixth shloka, sixth verse. Hari Om Sundar Mama Mami. Namaskaram. Tvaṃ guṇatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ avasthatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ dehatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ kālatrayātītaḥ. Tvaṃ mūlādhāra sthitosi nityam. Tvaṃ shaktitrayātmakah. Tvaṃ yogino dhyayanti nityam. Tvaṃ brahma tvaṃ vishnustvam rudrastvam indrastvam agnistvam vayustvam bhuryastvam chandramastvam brahma bhurbhuvasvarom. Now here he is Ganaka Rishi is trying to describe Ganesha as the something that is indescribable. See, there are few ways of describing anything that we know of, right? We usually describe it, and language only allows us to describe it either by its constituent parts. When you're defining something, you'll define it with its constituent parts. That it's got this. Suppose you're defining a fan. You will say it's got a blade, it's got a cover, it's got a stand, it's got it's got the controls, all of that, right? So that's how you define a fan. If you don't have the ability to define it by its constituent parts, you will define it in relation to something else that you have seen.
Like by its qualities. By its qualities.
Correct. So you will either go with its qualities in that case. So which means that you will so like for example, you're defining a fruit. So the fruit, you will say the color, the texture, how soft or rough or whatever it is, and the nature of it, how does it taste, right? So these are the qualities. So you will define by its constituent parts and or its qualities. Or if you are unable to break it down, or if you want to give a simpler reference of a definition of something, you will make it as a reference to something else. Like, for example, if you want to describe if you want to describe a tiger to a child, and the child has not seen a tiger, but the child has seen a cat. So you will say it is like a cat, but much bigger. Right? Just this cat, if you imagine the cat is much bigger, that's the tiger. Because the features are very similar. So you draw some inferences, or you draw a reference point and you define it. So what Ganaka Rishi is trying to do is he's trying to define, but the problem is that you cannot define this entity, Ganesha, or the thing that he is pointing to or pointing at cannot be pointed at, because it is not an object to be pointed at. Correct? Why do we say it is indescribable? It is indefinable.
நம்ம வேதாந்தத்துல யூசுவலா நேத்தி பிரின்சிபல் இது இல்ல அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம் இல்லையா? we try to describe.
We do, correct. That is the description by perfect mama. That is description by exclusion. The reason why we do that is because it cannot be described by gunas or by the component parts, because it is not composed of something, and it cannot be broken down into something. Hence it can't be broken down into something, and it doesn't have specific properties. See, the problem with properties or guna is that the moment you have something, you say you have this, it means you don't have that. There is a possibility of you don't have that. Right? So in this, so what happens is whenever you're defining definition, the act of definition itself is a limiting activity. Okay. And which is why we should try we have to use definitions in our life for discipline, to stay on a certain path, steadfast. But the important thing, we should not define ourselves as something. That's very important, right? The moment you define yourself as something, you are then limiting yourself. You're upfront telling yourself that there is no further possibility within me. In fact, there is a very beautiful a writer once wrote, or is an author. He wrote a very beautiful thing. He said, people ask me, are you a writer? Then I say, no, I write. People ask me, are you a painter? I say, no, I paint. And people ask, are you a musician? I say, no, I sing. So I don't want to be defined by a particular action. I do actions. So when you do action, the focus is on you. The moment you're defined as an actor, or a writer, or a musician, or a dancer, then your personality becomes limited. Why is it not possible that a writer can also paint? So there'll be writer, painter. What if the person happens to know dance? So there'll be a dancer. So writer, painter, dancer. So how would you? So you look at yourself. Can you actually define yourself with a certain limitation? And if we do, then we are limiting ourselves. Correct? In fact, in the household, you will see the mothers and grandmothers, you would have noticed that they can do so many different tasks. How do you define them? That's why they've come up with the term homemaker. Because you have to give a definition. The problem with language and the problem with transaction in the world, you need definition. I need to know who you are before I start interacting with you. That is the nature of samsara, where I am bound by this situation where unless I know who you are in terms of the activities that you do, I will not know how to engage with you. Right? So that is why the first thing when you meet people, when they generally meet for the first time or there is an introduction, usually the first thing they'll ask is, what do you do? And your usual response is your profession. Usual response is your profession. Or if you're retired, you will use that profession saying, I am retired from that. So, so your profession becomes so important as a definition that even after retiring, giving up 20 years ago, we will say that, I am a retired central government employee. அது முடிஞ்சு 20 வருஷம் ஆச்சு சார், இப்போ என்ன பண்றீங்க? So our definitions are so important for us. And even the problem is, this is okay, we have to transact with the world for them to know who we are, what we are, in terms of our skills and abilities. But the sad part is we start defining it in our head. We create these definitions within our heads. And that is where we trick ourselves to say that I'm limited by these definitions. These definitions limit me. Right? It's so sad because suddenly, and there is one Swami Anubhavananda. He says every year he picks up something new to learn. And that Swamiji is about 72, 73 years old. And he says he makes it a point to pick up some new, either a new language or a skill or art or something he picks up, or a text or a book. He says, I pick up something new to learn every year. So when you do that, what you are, that which is defined by your activities, keep changing. So Ganaka Rishi is pointing to that within that entity, that subject, that which we are, the principle of Ganesha Tattva, Shiva Tattva, Parashakti Tattva, the Tattva, the Muruga Tattva, that the Tattva, that is that essence that we are, is the subject. It's not the object. Right? And as long as we keep, and the reminder goes back to the subject, we know I will do so many different things, but I'm not defined by any of these things. I had this conversation with my wife several times. That be happy in the fact that you are not a particular entity. You are not just a particular entity, because we aspire for that. From childhood, we ask a child, what do you want to become? I want to become an engineer. I want to become a doctor. I want to become a pilot. I want to become an astronaut. So which means we are clearly defining which means I want to become that. And that is an aspirational entity in the air somewhere. And I want to fixate myself into that. The same person, after becoming the astronaut, you ask him, what do you want to become now? Enough. I want to become retired. ஒரு தடவை கூட ஸ்பேஸ் ஷிப்ல அனுப்பவே மாட்டாங்கறாங்க. இந்த கேப்சூல்லே ட்ரைனிங் பண்ணி வாழ்க்கை எங்கேயே போயிடுது. See, not everybody gets to go into. There are so many thousands of people who get trained for these things. It's like you go and talk to the soldiers. There are soldiers who live their life not seeing a single war. Imagine their situation. இந்த கன் ஒரு தடவாவது எங்கயாவது யூஸ் பண்ணணுமே. Imagine the whole life you're getting trained to do something, but that thing you'd never do. But you pray that you don't do, right? You pray that there's no war. You pray that you don't get to. But imagine what the mental condition of such an individual is. That he has studied. There are a lot of people who want to go to the Sainik school. They want to take up to the military forces, the army, defense. Want to get there, and they want to be in the field, in the front. So they do this, and what they do every day, they go. There are people who are on warships. Every day they clean up the artillery. They clean up everything. They make sure that everything is working in case there is a war, and they keep doing this for 30, 40 years. I never get called for a war. I maintained all my ammunition so well. I should get one chance to at least fire it and shoot it at somebody. Imagine this will be there, right? Now, why? Because we've lived all our life wanting to get to a definition. Right? If you're an archery, for example, you're practicing archery and like 25 years, you're just shooting at a tree. In your mind, you're thinking, I'm Arjuna, I'm Karna. I'll do like this, the arrow will fly, then 10 people will fall. Those things will not happen. Because we chase definitions. we get stuck in these problems, and we become dissatisfied if we don't come to that somewhere this hazy definition that we have in our heads. And you'll never reach it, because see, the moment you get, even if you get the Olympic gold medal, if you go to talk to PT Usha today, she aspired to become an excellent athlete and she won many gold medals. But today, what is she? That is of the past, right? Once you've touched it, once you've achieved it, then you have to now look for a new definition. And what now she'd be living is of the idea that I was a great athlete at one point in time. But today, maybe she is doing a lot of humanitarian work and she may be wanting to be known as a social worker. I don't know. But I'm saying people move through this definition from definition to definition. So it's very beautiful to always think that I am an individual who does many things. Today I'm doing these 5 things. Tomorrow I may do 7 things. Tomorrow I'll do 10 other different things. I do. And what is that defined by? Who I am. This I always say, right? Now, your activities don't define who you are. Your activities are a reflection of who you are. Who you are inside is reflected in the activities that we do. So we should try to move away from definition. Now, Ganaka Rishi is trying to show that. He's saying there are definitions that we carry of ourselves. There are guna, definitions of guna. That I am rajas, I am tamas, I am sattva. Rise above that. I am waking, dreaming, deep sleep. Rise above that. Avasthatraya. I am dehatraya. Sukshma, sthula, sukshma, karana. Right? So, what he is saying, I am guṇatrayā, tvaṃ guṇatrayātītaḥ, tvaṃ is you, which means, as we said, he is talking to this entity as though in the second person, because it's like a conversation he is trying to have. But essentially, he is talking to that essence consciousness that is within him. So he is bringing that attention back. So he's saying, tvaṃ guṇatrayātītaḥ, you, O Ganesha, you, O Atma, you, O Satchidananda Swarupa, you are guṇatrayātītaḥ. What are the 3 gunas? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattva guna is, let's start with Tamo guna. Tamo guna is dullness, laziness, immobility, grossness. This is all tamas. Tamas is important. Why? Because if you go to, when you want to go to sleep, some tamas is required for you to go into sleep. For one to have good sleep. That tamas in the body is required. Only then the body will rest. Right? Then rajas. Rajas is activity, engagement, interaction, transaction. You want to be doing something all the time. This is rajas. Rajoguna is important because only then we'll feel like wanting to act in the world. Whatever, even small thing. If my neighbor is coming and asking something, I have to help them out, do something. You need to have some amount of Rajoguna to be able to do action. The third one is Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna is lightheartedness, meditative mind, a peaceful composure, having a certain lack of agitation. So when you're not agitated, you're peaceful, you're calm. All of this, and you feel light within you. This is Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna is extremely important because Sattva Guna is the one that can take you to guṇatrayātītaḥ. The Guna Atitaha is possible only with the help of Sattva Guna. If I am sitting too calm and I fall into sleep, when I'm too calm, this happens, right? Very nice flute music is going on. I sit my calm, my meditative mind, and then I go into sleep. So from Sattva, I can drop into Tamas very quickly. But with Sattva, when the awareness is there, it can then bring us to a certain state of continued calm within us. And when we go above the Sattva, what it means to go above the Sattva also means that noticing that Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are happening in me, I am not defined by that. Even to be called a Sattvic person is a definition. Because we also, remember, we also strive to be this good person. We have been taught, even my guru's guru in Shivananda Ashram, you'll see, be good, do good. He said it in a way so that your actions are always monitored and you're doing the right things. But the problem is the aspiration of somebody. Now, what is good? The good problem with good, problem of being good. There is actually a book, I remember reading this several years ago. Somebody had written called The Problem of Being Good. The issue that we face is when you try to be good is you honestly move away from what your natural state is. Because you're aspiring to be good, you seldom come face to face with your reality. Because this definition of good is where who's validating that I am good? Somebody has got to say that I am good. Nalla paiyan. Appadinu somebody has to tell. Only when someone tells that, then I feel good. So this attribute of goodness is not something that has to be defined. But when we try to be good, when I try to be good, I want a validation from the outside, somebody to come and say that you are good. That validation is that which we are seeking as part of this whole process. Right? So Sattva is an extremely important guna. Sattva guna is required for us to be able to rise above the three gunas. Recognizing that sattva guna, being trapped in sattva guna itself is not the right thing also. Because somewhere in my mind, I am trying to tell myself that I am good, I am good, I am good. Now what is happening is you're also judging yourself, judging others. This is something that we do. So I am a good person, he is not a good person. Somewhere in our minds, we draw up these scales. In fact, even a child we teach, right? Child does something wrong. Then the child says, no, he also did. Then we will tell the child, no, he is not a good boy. You be a good boy. So we're training the child to hear the term good. You should be a good boy. Do you want everybody to call you a bad boy? See, these days it's very difficult. Children might come and say, I'm okay to be a bad boy. You have no way from there.
Case closed.
Case closed. Don't you want everybody to call you a good boy? No, I don't want.
நீதான் அஷட அப்படின்னு திரும்பி சொல்லிடுவா.
So the moment so if you create these definitions, again, coming back to the point of definition, we say you are, and it will be actually with children, when we work with children close enough, we'll realize that they will break down our definitions. Our only response to what they say will be, you will not understand these things. You grow up, you will understand. We'll shut them off because we are not able to come face to face with this definition that we have created, and we're trying to impose that definition. We ourselves don't know what it means to be good. We ourselves don't know what it means to be good. So the sattva guna, or the guna that makes you feel elated, makes you feel meditative, light, that's important. At the same time, sattva guna means essentially those attributes that come as part of compassion, thinking about others before yourself, putting yourself, even if it is inconvenient to you, because it will be beneficial for somebody. Giving yourself your energies for the well-being without necessarily expecting anything in return. These are all sattva guna. But these should be natural occurrences. It should be natural occurrence. Tomorrow I shouldn't expect a plaque saying, somebody doing social work, saying, you wonder doing selfless social work. No, I'm expecting that plaque. How does it become selfless? Or if I don't get it, and the people are around who are doing work, social work, are getting it, I've been doing selflessly, I've been doing social work for so many years, nobody recognized me. So that recognition that you're seeking negates the activity that you're doing. So sattva guna is all of this in terms of how you engage with the world so that you purify yourself. There is shuddhikarana that happens. The shuddhikarana of the antakarana happens. The cleansing happens slowly. Important thing there is, I am compassionate, but I don't define myself as I'm a compassionate person. You're getting into a duel or or a tussle with somebody, you know, I'm a very compassionate person. Don't, you know, don't draw anger out of me. Anger is compassion.
என்கிட்ட வச்சுக்காத.
என்கிட்ட வச்சுக்காத. I am very,
இந்த குணம் வந்து at any one single point of time can multiple or both the gunas at the same time be there in a person.
all the three will be there.
All the three.
All the three different compositions, that's all, at different times.
Naturally, a single point of time. In the kshana, எனக்கு வந்து என்ன குணம் ரெண்டு more than one guna can be there, இல்லையா?
Yeah. So
But the concentration will be different.
Yeah. So
Ratio.
Like for example, if you're talking about yoga nidra, Chuma, as an example I'm saying, yoga nidra is a method of meditation where you go to sleep. So you've got tamas there, but sattva is also there. There is some amount of sattva. You are going into sleep, but you're doing it as a meditation. So you're making yourself light, you're making yourself, you're dropping the identity. You're going into a sattvic state, but then you're entering into sleep, which is an act of tamas. Right? So that will be there. At the same time, there is activity, like there is sattva rajas. Sattva rajas is when there is sattva rajas and rajo tamas. Sattva rajas is when my ideals are high, I am thinking about the other, and the activity that I do is rajasic activity, but my ideals are high. Rajo tamas is I am doing activity, but I am doing for my own gain, for my self-centered gain. So these combinations will exist at a given point in time. There's a possibility of some of these combinations existing, because these are not hard drawn lines again, right? These are not hard drawn lines. And what happens is, it is like sieving through the combination. So you have these three colors or these three combinations, and you try to, like for example, kolam. If you take kolamava and you take three different kolamava, colored kolamava, and you're putting a rangoli, at the borders you will always see both the colors existing. So if I take red, green and blue, assuming I take these three colors and I create different column structures, wherever there are joins, both the colors, suppose I'm doing a triangle here and then another triangle of a different color, wherever there is joining, both the colors exist. And they will exist, because for that column to appear beautiful, that that combination will exist at different points. So there is a possibility of a particular activity being on its own. In fact, I would say if you take rajas is always either sattva rajas or tamo rajas. Action that you do is always driven by the intention. If you have a tamasic intention, it is rajo tamas. If you have a sattvic intention, it is sattva rajas. So both have to exist. But action is rajas, but what is your intention? Is it sattva or tama? Right? So that will be there. Now, in terms of rising above the sattva, the foundation is we have to get to sattva first. I have to start having higher ideals. I have to build ideals of compassion, sacrifice, selfless activity. All of this I have to build to understand what sattva is. Right? And then I think about transcending sattva. Then I think about transcending sattva, Because the transcendence of sattva is necessary for a spiritual seeker. If we want to be just good in the world, we can continue doing Pakravala, Nalla Paya, Nalla Mami, he's a very good husband, he's a very good son, she's a very good wife. And we inside us, we'll be wanting to hear, oh, is it? Did he say that? Or did ஓ என்ன பத்தி சொன்னால ஆச்சரியமா இருக்கே நான் அப்படிலாம் எதுவும் பண்ணலையே ஆனா மனசுக்குள்ள ஆஹா என்ன பத்தி சொன்னால So our mind is very tricky in that nature. And the next time, if you know that the person who has told about you this way, the next time you meet the person, you want to be like that. You want to maintain the image that has been created. Because you don't want to hear, ஐயோ அந்த மாமா இப்படி பண்ணிட்டாரா அந்த மாமா நல்ல மாமா நினைச்சேனே முடிஞ்சது. See, the society is a validation. You require some amount of validation from society to know how harmonious you are in society. Harmony is important. As long as society is concerned, harmony is important. Yeah, we want to be in the good books of others. Correct. The problem is, it shouldn't become an endeavor, a lifelong endeavor that I want to be in the good books of others, good books of others. That book that they keep rewriting every time. The others, the books that they write is always kept rewritten. Today you will be a nice person in their books, tomorrow you will not be so nice. And what changes that you will not know. So the
problem, to handle this dvandam, both good, bad, we come to that.
We rise above the duality of that.
Duality. Then this will not bother us at all. And
exactly. Exactly. So that is what it means by guṇatrayātītaḥ, which means you come to a point of, see, the basic thing is, you're not saying you cannot jump from tamas to atitaḥ. No. I'm completely dull. I'm completely materially oriented. I'm completely involved in sensual pleasures. All I need is I'm looking for money, how to enjoy, how to party. My mind is there. If we present a possibility of a atitaḥ, guṇatrayātītaḥ, it is difficult for this individual to make that jump completely. Right? Unless you have that grace. There are cases like that has happened. Like Arunagirinatha. Arunagirinatha was a squanderer. Right? He didn't have money. He became a leper, and yet he wanted physical pleasure. Then his sister came and told that if you're so desperate, take my body. And he couldn't bear that. It hurt him so badly, he went to go and jump off and die. And then Muruga came in the form of a Brahmin boy and saved him and then gave him Diksha. And then he became Arunagirinatha. There are examples like this in our culture. We've seen this. But those are far and few, right? We can't say that, oh, Arunagirinatha has got it, so I'll also get it. So let me go and indulge. The story is not about indulgence. The story is, will you get something to push you to the corner so that you go and jump? The remorse that Arunagirinatha felt of the life that he had led, will you ever feel that remorse? Ippadi vaazhundutene. Will you feel that remorse and send out that prayer from your heart with a cry? That he did. That is what saved him.
Ultimately, the actions, in the transactional world can be anything, but it's all in the mind that you need to be sattva, rajas, or tamas. Yeah.
Correct.
The guna it's more in the mind than in the action. The action could be something.
The intention,
As
correct.
long as, for example, in the warல இருக்கும் கூட அவன் சுடுறது அவன் ரஜஸா இருக்கும் ரஜஸ். பட் அவன் என்னோட கடமை நான் அடிக்கணும், அந்த பாவம் அந்த அவன் சாவரம் ஏதோ அவனோட கர்மா அப்படின்ட்டு அந்த அந்த மனசுல இருந்தனாக்கா the guna actually defines.
Absolutely. The what guna you are is defined by the intention. Absolutely right. So the intention is what we are working on. So when we get that, it's difficult. So that I was saying is difficult to jump from tamas all the way. So we have to move wherever we are. We have to move towards sattva. There's no escaping that. We have to become lighter and more in tune and more, in a way, less agitated, less resistant, a little more compassionate, a little more inclusive. We have to become all of this, which is sattva. And as we become more of that, then there is a possibility of atitaḥ. Okay, so this atitaḥ, then what it actually means is that you are no longer holding any of this as your definition. See, Jesus Christ example is there. The example of Christ, where he walked into the synagogue in Jerusalem and he saw how the temple had become a place of a marketplace. Now all our temples are like that only. Before you go to the temple, you will see 100 shops. You cross through 100 shops and only then go to the temple. But at that time in the synagogue, maybe inside the praharam itself, at least now it's temple, the shops are outside. Maybe at that time within the praharam, there are these money lenders, there were these shopkeepers, merchants, vendors and all that. They were selling merchandise, they were selling stuff. So Christ, when he came into Jerusalem, he saw that you're defecating the place of worship. Place of worship has a certain energy and that's got to be retained and that's got to be secured. So he gets very angry and he doesn't go and ரொம்ப சாதுவா போய் கொஞ்சம் எல்லாரும் வெளியில போறேளா அப்படிலாம் சொல்லல அவரு. He didn't go with a lot of this thing in a pleasant tone. No, he took a stick from one of the shops and he started beating them and driving them out of the temple area. He said, you guys are defiling my house of my Lord, house of my God, my God's house. You are all making it dirty. He drives them away. Now these are great men who have also shown acts of aggression. You look at Jesus Christ, he is a man who is in our in whatever literature that we see, is a character, a human character who's shown the maximum tolerance, maximum amount of compassion that he's exhibited. And somebody like that is able to show aggression and beat people and drive them away. The point there is, he is not trying to be good. That's the important thing. He is in a place within himself that he is not defined by any of this. Guṇatrayātītaḥ. I know this is the right thing because I'm guided from within. And I'm in tune. I know when I'm in tune. Not because somebody tells me. I am in tune. I know because I worked for it. I've gone through the process and now I am in tune. I know if there is a calling, I need to act in this way. I act in this way. When there is no calling, I will not. I will sit quietly. Somebody went and asked Ramana Maharshi, there are so many people dying, hunger, this thing, that thing and all that. He'll say that I can't fix all that. This is the way of the world. Right? Don't you have compassion? Appadin Ramanar kitta sollalam poi. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, we'll stop with this story. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was sitting in his house and suddenly one morning he's weeping. And then Sharada Devi and others come and ask, what happened? Why are you weeping? And he says, I am dying in 500 bodies. I'm feeling the weight of death. So then the next day, there's a newspaper article comes saying that in Japan, there was a ship that's capsized and there are about 500 people died. Now, how did Ramakrishna Paramahamsa sitting inside the house here had that experience? It's hard to say. He is sitting in one place. That is compassion. Compassion doesn't mean that you have to get up and you have to do something. No. If there is a need, you do. If there is a calling, you do. But if there is none, you be. Even being silent in one place and sending out a prayer for somebody is a great amount of compassion. We always think that compassion is only shown in action. Compassion can also be shown purely just in intention. And our prayers, our intentions can be far more reaching than a physical action. This is guṇatrayātītaḥ. So when you don't necessarily do something because there is some definition that you have to do. You're compassionate means you have to go and do something about it. If somebody is hungry and you feel like there is this feeling that comes, you give. If it doesn't, it's okay. Don't look around and say, oh, people are seeing, let me give. You know, I'm not saying we do this consciously. We've become so tuned in the society that I want constant validation. This need for validation is there. And that will dissolve. The need for validation will slowly dissolve when we tune in within ourselves. And then the possibility of a guṇatrayātītaḥ may occur. It is, you don't try to attain to an atitaha state. It will happen. Dissolution happens. நீங்க ஒரு வெள்ளத்தை எடுத்து தண்ணியில போட்டா எவ்வளவு அமிக்கினாலும் அது எப்போ கரையுமோ அப்பதான் கரையும். Now what it depends on, how quickly it dissolves, depends on the nature of that vellum. If it is a hard vellum, it will take a long time. If it is soft, it will easily melt and dissolve. But the amount of time is not determined by the amount of pressure that you put or whatever. It is determined by the nature of the vellum. So all we make ourselves is that. Our process is to make ourselves in that, so that dissolution happens. And then guṇatrayātītaḥ. Om kāyena vācā manasendriyervā buddhyātmana vā prakrite svabhāvat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai nārāyanāyeti samarpayami sadashivāyeti samarpayami jagadambikāyeti samarpayami sadgurunāthāyeti samarpayami hari om tat sadgurubhyo namah. Hari Om. Hari Om.